Um, okay, this is so cool. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. I'm actually just getting ready to get all of my little setup here. It's just me running this, so I need your patience for just a quick minute. Okay, I need to get my video message. Hold on. Live video. Okay, I have to get the address. Show video URL. Copy. Oh my god, there's so much to this. Okay, sorry guys. Paste. Okay, there we go. Okay, we've turned on the Facebook messages. And now I need to change the address. Yes. Okay, this is cool. Let's turn this on. Perfect. Activated. Okay, we got the comments activated. We've got the messenger bot ready to go. Bingo. We are live and we are good to go. Okay, this is awesome. I'm using the Facebook Creator app on my phone. So what's really weird is I don't see the comments on the Creator app, but I can see it. So I'm using my computer screen to help capture the comments, and then I'm just going live from my phone. I was hoping to be able to go and pull it up on my phone here. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if all goes well, you should see the overlay down at the bottom. And I can see a little bit on the screen. And I've got it on my phone here. Here, let me show you there. So I've got a viewer. Today we're actually talking about, oh, and Kathleen is here. Hello, Kathleen. Thanks for watching. This is actually really exciting. Thank you. So we've got a conversation point for today. I wanted to jump in and actually wanted to talk about something that's meaningful to me. It's actually ego. I don't know about you guys, but ego can get in the way of everything. Ego is like the worst thing ever. I mean, I don't think ego has ever done a good thing for me. I don't think it's ever been a supportive idea. There's no good things that I've ever done that has kind of come from ego. It's, in a nutshell, I would say ego's really got in the way of awesome things for me. Kind of like the Facebook Creator app here. I'm having fun with it, but I'm still kind of learning from it. All right, so my little one-man show here. I've got my Facebook comments. I can see, Kathleen, you're here. Yes, the Creator app feels kind of half-baked. It does feel kind of half-baked. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being cool with me tonight. I appreciate it. You're awesome. So let's jump into it. Today I want to talk about ego. And for me and my ego, we've never really accomplished a lot of things. We've never done a whole bunch of cool stuff. And now that I realize what I really should do is I should share my stream to my wall, share to my timeline. Okay, so now I've shared to my wall. So many manual things you have to do when it comes to like live streams. I'm excited to do it. Like I love doing the live streams. I'm trying to run it on a slow, like just me. And when I use only my phone, there's a lot more manual work I have to do. If I do it on my computer, there's a lot more automation I can do. But nonetheless, today, guys, we're talking about ego. We're talking about sobriety, recovery, addiction, all of the things from above. If you're new here, type hello in the comments. Kathleen, you typed hello earlier. Thanks for typing this. I really appreciate that. You saying hi. If you want a reminder about the next time we go live, type show in the comments, and then we'll have a message, a Facebook message sent out to you just to let you know. I did send a message out here a couple minutes ago, so it's probably going to take about a good 5-10 minutes for people to get the notifications. I don't know why Facebook doesn't send the notifications all at once. I still haven't figured that out. that's where I ask if you want to get a reminder. I can just send you a message on Facebook, and then you get the message directly from me. We don't have to wait for Facebook to say hello. Anyway, guys, so today we're talking about ego, we're talking about recovery, addiction, all of the things from above. So what have we mentioned so far? We've mentioned that ego has never really helped me. Ego has never really supported me. It's never gave me a positive thing in my life. It's probably caused more harm than good. I've probably done more constructive things without ego, but try and tell it to somebody who's suffering. Try and tell it to somebody who's in the middle of their addiction and they're not willing to listen to anything. I know this because that's happened to me. People try and talk with me. People try and tell me a message. Hey, Jason, you know what? I think your habit has become a problem. And then my ego is so big, it won't let anything creep in. It won't let anything jump in there. It won't give room for anything else. So in my addiction, with ego in place, what actually ended up happening is it reduced my life down to basically just two emotions. Like one emotion on this side would be things are really, really good. And then on the other side, the emotion I had was like things were really, really bad. But there was no in between. It was either really, really good or really, really bad. And it didn't matter which emotion it was. In both cases, I wanted to go out and party. I wanted to go out and celebrate. I wanted to go out and have fun. I would want to go out and get drunk, do things I shouldn't, hang out with people I shouldn't hang out with. But when I reduce my life down to just two emotions, it really doesn't give room for a lot of growth. It doesn't give room for, and I'm not motivated to want to change that because I've conduced myself, I've reduced my life down to those handful of experiences where the things I'm only ever going to experience are either really, really good or really, really bad. And it's a very challenging way to live. I mean, once I stopped consuming substances and when I stopped drinking alcohol, pretty soon I had a lot more emotion to feel in between. I had a lot more, hold on, I'm just going to bring up the comments. I had a lot more room to experience more emotions. And rather than just have two emotions, I ended up realizing I have a lot more than two. I've got like 50,000 emotions in between really, really good and really, really bad. And when I stopped consuming alcohol and drugs, when you only have two, it kind of hits you as a brick wall. And when I'm getting hit with a brick wall, it's like drinking from a fire hose. You're trying to make sense of 50,000 emotions in between really good and really bad. And, I had a hard time making sense of them. I had a challenge and struggled because everything was new then. It was like drinking from a fire hose. There was nothing really in between beforehand. I would just celebrate in either really good or really bad. It didn't matter what happened in between because I would just default it into one of those two. So as soon as I removed that substance in alcoholism, now everything else in between is fresh and it's raw, and trying to make sense of it can take time. And I don't know, have you guys ever had when you buy a new car, you get like a new car smell? Well, in this case, it's almost like a new emotion smell where everything feels new and almost childlike in the sense where, a child doesn't know the difference between being tired and being hungry or angry or frustrated. Like it's just all one ball of emotion. And, before rehab, before going to a treatment center, it was very challenging for me to try and make sense of these emotions. I was just living like on the fly as I went. And for getting exposed to that amount of emotion, getting exposed to that amount of, I want to say support, but that was a pressure cooker for me. Having all those emotions released to me all at once. And in a treatment rehab center, it was, I'm with 50 other guys. And with 50 other guys, we're all in that same experience together. We're all learning at the same pace. Some guys have been there longer than I have. There's always a new guy that arrived the day before you did. And there's a guy that arrives the day after you. But for me, I want to say that in treatment, in rehab, there was no like real, like, I don't want to say there was no work done, like there was no quote unquote healing being done, but there was a new language that I was learning. There was a new emotional appreciation I was feeling, and that level of exposure to emotion kind of grinded me to a halt. Like, I ended up having to forge new meanings. I had to map everything out all over again. And each new emotion had to be placed somewhere in between the two emotions I had before, really, really good or really, really bad. And as I mapped each one, it took time. Making room for those emotions, you kind of really don't have a choice. Because when you stop drinking and when you stop consuming substances, the brain becomes clouded when you are in the heat of your addiction. But when you remove those, pretty soon you have this air gap. And what fills that gap then is, well, whatever you have in abundance. And that's where the treatment program comes in, because it forces you to go to class, you go to meetings, you have meetings after meetings. It's kind of crazy how much work you have to put into. But one of the main things you have to do, in order to be successful at least, is you have to become humble. And by humble, I mean I am removing emotion, like that ego emotion from the picture. Because beforehand, the ego was running the show. It was making decisions on the fly. It was filling my head with ideas. It was driving the decision-making process. Again, there was no good that was coming from ego. And so when I say I became humble, it's that I removed that ego from the decision-making picture. I removed that from the decision-making process. And to be humble is one thing, but to staying humble then would be the idea of like removing ego entirely from your life. No, becoming humble means just putting your ego in check and removing it from the picture. Staying humble is the consistent activity of removing that ego. But, I'm human, you're human, we're all human. Ego's going to creep in there eventually. Like, I have to remind myself continuously that it doesn't have a place in my life. I have to remove that idea that it has a place in my everyday interactions. My ego, it drives me to hold on to resentments. My ego drives me to want to go and hold on to things that don't add value. It's crazy how much ego has, if left unchecked, like ego can run the show and horrible things can happen. My ego, it tricked me into having beliefs that didn't make any sense. And my pride, another aspect of ego, my pride, it gave me a false sense of security, which it sounds crazy. But for me, my ego and pride, it had become so normal that I made it, not that it was a warm blanket, but I would use that pride and ego to shield me from everything else. I would use pride and ego to almost to be a mask that I would put up in front of everything. And that sense of security, that sense of a mask, would shield me from the rest of the world. Now, that's no real way to live life, because I'm not actually living life then. I'm hiding from it. And, there were times in my life where it was easier to hold on to my ego than it was to be wrong. Even though I might have known that there was the right thing to do, I still chose not to do it, which sounds insane, because, letting go of my pride would allow me the ability to walk in the direction of progress. It would allow me to move forward in a positive light. But you can't really do that if all I'm ever doing is holding on to ego. Okay, I'm getting worked up about this. I'm sorry, guys. I just get really passionate about this topic. It's really exciting to me. Okay, so my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. If you're new here, this show is about recovery. It's about addiction. It's about overcoming challenges. It's about the mindfulness. I kind of added the last part in there, the mindful approach to recovery. The show really isn't for people who Like, I'm not here to convince you to do something. I'm not here to help convince you not to do anything. But this show is really meant for those who have already made the decision that they want to live an outstanding life. They made the decision they don't want to consume alcohol or drugs. And what they want is a companion. And this is where the show comes in. We have a wide variety of topics. Today we're talking about ego. Last week we talked about, we had another show about resentment. We had another one about relationships, community, stress. We had the most popular one we had was like hitting rock bottom. You guys really like that episode for some reason. I don't know why. It's my #1 watched episode. Anyway, so if you like what we're doing here, if you like what we're talking about, we do have a show every weekend. I try and go live on Saturdays or Sundays, but I actually had fun last week. I decided to move everything, like copy all the videos and put them on YouTube. But then I decided I'm just going to transcribe it as well, and then I'll put it into a blog post, repurposing the content. And I started posting the blogs, and then there's a lot of people reading the blogs, and I'm like, holy crap, that's actually pretty cool. There's about as much viewers as I do blog readers, and shares and likes and hearts. It's actually pretty exciting. But if you like what we're talking about, and you like what we're doing here, and you want a reminder, feel free to type show in the comments. If you're watching the replay, again, don't worry about typing show in the comments. You'll get the same message as before. Everybody, if you type show in the comments, you'll get a reminder. It doesn't matter if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, you'll both get the reminder when we go live next. And again, we go live every weekend. And I try and aim for Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. This week I ran a little bit later. But still, I wanted to get this message out to you. You guys are awesome. I love coming out every weekend. You guys message me throughout the week. You tell me what you like about the show, what you don't like, what you want different. You guys give me topics as well. So thank you again for reaching out, for saying hi, shooting me a message. But let's move on. Let's keep going. Let's keep talking. So we talked about pride and ego. And what's weird for me is, so addiction and ego, they go hand in hand. Like, they're the ones that are, if left unchecked, those ones can run the show and run rampant. There's no good that can come from them. Together, pride and resentments, though, those are the ones that are building the walls. Those are the ones that are pushing people away. Addiction and ego, they go hand in hand, but it's pride and resentment. It's when those two get together, that's when the walls are being built. That's when people are being pushed away. But on the flip side of that, recovery and gratitude, those are the things that can break down the barriers. And what's crazy is, walls aren't built overnight. And the hard part is, walls don't come down overnight either. That's the crazy part about it. What is built in a day doesn't come down in a day. Okay, I have neglected the comments, but I'm going to go check them out here in just a minute. Okay, Kathleen is saying, yes, she got the notification. That's awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Kathleen. So much good stuff to think about. Yes, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's move forward. So with pride and ego, it's crazy. We already talked about how they push people away. They're almost like bandits, that they don't care. They don't care who's hurt. They don't care if you're a friend or if you're a family. It's colorblind. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are or what advice you're offering. Pride and ego don't distinguish that. And the challenge is it just pushes everything away. Everyone, every person you love, any friend that's close to you. I don't know. There's no real good things that can come from pride and ego running the show. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happens when we put pride and ego away. When we check the title of the show I put was, I should chickadee check myself before I wreck myself. And I really love that saying because that's an Ice Cube song, and Ice Cube has been pretty much a role model. This guy is pretty fun. He's hilarious. But as soon as I put my ego in check, my life began to change. Everything started to turn around. I started having way more good days than bad days. We talked about it on the previous stream, the where there's no such thing as bad days. You know, we might have a bad minute, we might have a bad hour, but there's no such thing as bad days. So as soon as I let go of ego, I no longer had any more bad days. I still might have bad minutes and bad hours, but I don't have any more bad days. Okay, I'm getting notifications here, so I need to go look at the screen. Who is here? I got a heart. Oh, Amy's here. Hello, Amy. Thanks for hanging out and being cool. Today I'm using the Facebook Creator app. I'm kind of fumbling my way through it. It's weird because I had to do the two, go live first and then go on the computer to send the notification out, like the two-step process. I don't know. I like vMix, but I'm trying out the next couple of streams using just the Creator app just to see what the experiences are. So far, it's pretty good, aside from the fumbling part. But thank you for hanging out, Amy. It really means a lot. Okay, so we're talking about ego, we're talking about recovery, addiction, and everything in between. Okay, so we talked about no more bad days when I let go of my ego. Holding on to pride, it did provide a lot of pain. Like, when I held on to my pride, it was just nothing but painful. But when, I would say that when I held on to my pride, I lost more than I gained. And I ended up hurting more people than I've helped. You know, if I were to measure things in a success standpoint. So one of the first things we do when we enter rehab, in a previous episode, I talked about they asked us to make a list of all the people we had harmed. And it took me a few weeks to kind of get that organized. It took me about 3 weeks, only because my ego got in the way and I didn't want to do it. But the idea behind it is after making the list, we would then be forced is not the right answer. We were then presented with, one of the steps later on is we have to prepare ourselves to go make amends with the people that we had harmed. There's a whole step to be able to go and do the action. So in the 12 steps, we had an episode about that already, but essentially there's the step itself and then there's a preparation for the next step. So in recovery, there's a lot of, yes, there's a step, but then there's also a pre-step almost. You can almost get away with like 6 steps really, but there's 12 of them. Anyway, so in making the list of all the people I'd harmed, I then had to get prepared to make amends for them. And before we complete our treatment, before we complete rehab, that is when they ask us to go ahead and follow through with it. That's where they say, okay, now that you got the list of all the people you had harmed in the heat of your addiction, now you have to actually follow through and follow up and then make an apology. And making an apology to people you had harmed, it took a while. Like, no lie. It wasn't an easy thing. One, you have to admit that you're wrong. You have to put your ego in place. But you also have to go and bring yourself to that idea. Kind of like what we said about the 12 steps. There's like a prelude before the step. You have to prepare yourself to admit that you were wrong. And then you have to follow through by making amends. It's never an easy process. But it's not easy because your ego is in... I'm holding on to my ego. But the more I let go of my ego, the easier that process becomes. The easier it is to ask for feedback. The easier it is to be able to say, hey, you know what? I was a crappy friend. I was a crappy boyfriend. I wasn't that good of a family member to you. I'm sorry. You apologize. The hard part for me was like apologizing to my mom. This is an honesty moment where I was like, hey, you know what? I wasn't that good of a son to you. And I'm sorry, I've let you down and I want to make it up to you. It took a while, but we're in a better spot now. We're in a better, we phone each other every day. Well, pretty much every week. I should call my mom after this. Okay. So it sounds easy when I say that ego kind of slips in. And it sounds too easy that ego, if you're not looking at it, it's crazy because then I can tell myself and I can tell others like, oh yeah, you can check yourself before you wreck yourself. And it's a nice, fun saying to have. But all the while, what can take place is ego can slip in when you're not looking. The greediness behind ego as if it's some sort of a gremlin or something. Like pride, it can slip in there if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not being aware. And I think that's part of the ritual of getting into a habit of not cleansing yourself of ego, but it's more of like, hey, you know what? Ego doesn't belong in this equation. Ego doesn't belong in this part of my life. You know, I'm trying to live my life in a way that's outstanding, and ego doesn't have a place in it. So in treatment, they make us make this list. We have to follow through by making amends before we leave. And the whole time, during the whole process, and then for me, that took 9 weeks to go through. During that whole time, I had to get into the idea, the habit, that ritual of removing ego. And that sounds like way more challenging than it is. But, you know, it taken me years before I'd entertain that idea. And now, consistently, for a few weeks, 9 weeks, I had built it up to this whole thing where I was like, okay, I have been ego-free, as if I should have like a badge or like a tattoo. I've been ego-free for 21 days. It's like I've been ego-free for 9 weeks, and I've been able to accomplish these things, make these amends. I didn't make all my amends. I started working on them when I was in recovery, but I didn't give up. I kept going through it. Okay, I see some notifications coming through. I'm going to go check out the comments here in just a minute. Hold on. And we have Amy saying, process. You Canadian. You. I am Canadian. Thanks, Amy. Okay, and I've never understood the concept of, Amy's also saying, I've never understood the concept of approaching people you've harmed and that the attempt to make amends. Who is supposed to benefit more? That's a great question, Amy. To answer that, it's actually a little bit of both. So the concept of making people, the idea of making the list of people you had harmed is going through the practice of, hey, you know what? I admit that I am wrong. First, I'm admitting wrong to myself, that I have done wrong. And then you contextualize it by saying, what was the outcome of being wrong and doing these wrong things? Well, I had harmed, I'm going to make it up and say my brother. I don't actually have a brother, but I'll just make it up. I harmed my brother in the process of it. And let's say I wanted to go and make amends to them because I'd done this harmful thing. And the harmful thing can be measured in any number of things. Maybe I borrowed money from him, or maybe I took advantage of him. Those are two of the same thing. It's probably not a good example. But the idea is that I've caused harm to him in the way that he would measure harm. Either I've broken his trust, or I've taken advantage of him, like in the form of money, or I've let him down, really. That's the basics of it. And then when it comes to the attempt of making amends, they prepared us, and I'm about to dip into this a little bit later, but they would prepare us by saying, there will be times when you reach out to the other person and you might give a prelude to saying, hey, I just want to talk. Or you can open up and say, I just want to apologize for what happened. And the person themselves may be so, I don't say hard done by, that's not the right answer. They could be feeling harmed to the point that they no longer want to talk with you. Like they don't want to entertain. Like even though you're there just to apologize, they don't even want to have that conversation. And so they would prepare you by saying, hey, you know what? Not all times will the person entertain that conversation with you. Because one, they may not believe you. You might have pulled this stunt before. You might have tried this 17 other times. And they don't believe you then. They don't believe you now. They're probably not going to believe you in the future. It might take time for them to break down that wall. Because just as much as we build walls and push people away, so too have they. It's not the end of the world. It's the result of you and your addiction. That's not really their fault. That's really mine. Anyway, so circling back to this fictitious brother I have, if I reach out to him and I try and make amends, and let's say he says no, I can feel better then knowing that I've told him that I'm prepared to apologize, even though I haven't actually apologized to him. I've let him know that I'm ready to apologize, and that maybe he doesn't believe me because it's going to take me a month. Maybe he doesn't believe me because it's going to take 2 months or 3 months, or maybe it's going to take me hitting my 1 year sobriety. before this fictitious brother that I have is willing to entertain the idea that I'm actually sorry and that I'm living this life now that's changed. Maybe I have to hit some milestones, or sometimes I'll go and I'll make an apology, like I'll make an amends, and that amends may not land with the other person. And or the other extreme is they'll say make amends. In the previous stream we talked about making amends when it's safe. Not just safe for you, but for the other person. You know, if you making amends was going to cause harm to them, like if you are really not supposed to talk to them, or if it's not safe for you to talk with them, like there's like actual harm that can come to you or them, then at that point, don't jeopardize your safety of them. Don't jeopardize the safety of others just so you can feel better. That's not the whole point of what the apology part is. It's about when the relationship is safe. And then we talked about in a previous stream, what does safety look like? Does safety look like convenience? No, of course not. Let me know what you think, Amy, about that. I don't know if I'm answering the question, but, oh, I got a notification. Yes, so the goal is for you to feel better more, so then for them to feel better. Yes, that's right. Well, you would feel better knowing that you've come to that idea that yes, you are wrong and you are prepared to make amends. And the amends you're making is genuine and heartfelt. Like you're not just making a list of every family member and running around and making amends to them. You have to actually want to do it. If you try and run through it, like a checklist, I'm going to talk to my brother because I have to, that's not going to be genuine. He's not going to believe you. And there's no point in telling him you're sorry if you're not actually sorry. There's supposed to be a way to make a connection and apology, and it's not supposed to be artificial. It should be genuine and authentic is what I'm saying. Okay, Amy is saying, do they tell you to prioritize a list of people? No, they don't. Well, in my recovery, in my treatment center, they didn't. They had just said, make a list of all the people you had harmed. And then who I started with was my own priority. Who I put on the list first was my priority. So I guess it is a priority that I've created, but they don't tell me to make that list or work my way through top down. They just say, just dump everything onto that list, and then from there, work your way through it. And by working your way through it, you're identifying, here's the horrible things that I had done, yes, but here's the mindset I was in, here's the actions that it caused, here's the outcomes that I don't want. And by mapping it out, by playing the tape to the end, in a notebook, like it's in one of those, those like Cole's Notes notebook you get in like grade school, where they're like pastel colors and stuff, and there's the line sheets. Yeah, they give you one of those, and each page is its own month, day, year, decade. It's crazy. And then so you fill it out, and it's not just like a quick list of 20 names or anything. Like you got to put a whole lot more detail behind it. By the time you're done with it, I think I still have my step one somewhere. I should go through it. That'll be a fun show. Anyway, okay. Let me know what you think, Amy. I'm going to jump into this. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you. Okay, so we talked about how ego can slip in. We talked about how pride can run rampant. And that's why... Oh, okay, so in the ritual of letting go of ego, it's a good habit to get into. It's in the ritual of being able to move through our pride and ego. I don't want to say move through. It's about acknowledging it and moving it away. Not giving it as much rent in your head as you need to. Because if you give it more than it needs to, it's going to take it. It doesn't care. Again, we talked about how greedy ego and pride can be. They don't care. They don't see color. They don't see family member, friend. They just alienate everybody and everything. So it's a good habit of getting into being humble. And the goal is to then stay humble. And that's where we're living a life without ego. Ego is always going to be there because we're human, but you want to work through it. You want to get into the exercise of, here's what I can do to help minimize it. Okay, so in the program, in the treatment center, we would meet about 4 or 5 times in a day. In a day meeting, we'd be in a meeting. There's like a morning meeting. There's like we're in class. We would go to a meeting offsite. We'd go to an afternoon meeting after dinner, and then there's a meeting at night. Like, there's so many meetings we'd go through. And with 50 guys, all in small groups, so it's not the same, it's the same 50 guys, but you meet in small groups consistently throughout the day. And it's not the same group of guys, it's a random hodgepodge of guys, small batches of 4 or 5. But what the cool thing was, is we would share all of our wins. So during the whole 9-week process, you're all going through the exercise of writing down your step 1, making your list of your amends, documenting what happened, like the train wreck of a horrible thing that you caused. And when someone shared a win, it was super exciting. They'd be like, I talked to my parent, my family member, my fictitious brother here, and I made amends. And when someone celebrated a win, we celebrated a win. And when someone made amends, that gave us hope that, you know what, we can do that too. And it's crazy when you hear it from another person who was also in the same mindset as you, was in the same learning path as you, who's at the same level as you. They had, they just got there the day before you or the week before you, and they're already making progress. So that gives me hope that I can do that too. And so their win was our win. And we were very selfless in our support. And the other flip side of that, though, is when someone made a mistake. So when someone made a mix-up, when they made a mishap, when things didn't work out in that amends-making process, we would all learn a lesson. We would walk away with, hey, you know what? Here's what worked and here's what didn't work. What can we do the next time we come around to this? Maybe we shouldn't have talked to that ex-girlfriend this close after. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be safety measures built in place. There can't just be make your list, go through it in the weekend, and you're done. That kind of a rush can cause probably more harm than good. But they trust us, they trust you to make the decision as to what that safety looks like. Okay, so the next part I want to chat about quickly was years of building walls, so that ego and pride, the years of building walls, they don't come down on a weekend. And making amends is going to be something I'm always going to be doing. I'm not going to get it done once, cross it off my list and never make amends. No, I'm going to have to be doing this all the time. This is something I'm going to have to be doing not one day, but every day I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I'm getting more notifications. And then let's see. Oh, yes, Amy says thanks. Wow. I would cry listening to someone else's win. It's super... I can't describe it. Like, there's some of the guys there I want to say there's friendships I probably never would have made on my own naturally, but after being associated with the program, it doesn't matter. A win's a win. Like, we would celebrate coming back to the room, like, hey, you know what? Today was a really tough day. Today was really hard. But you know what? All of us are sober today. All 50 of us went out today, and all 50 of us came back today. And then we're like, today's a win. Tomorrow we're going to get up, we're going to do it again. And we're going to try again. We're going to do again. We're going to try something new the next time we try and make amends. It's actually pretty cool. The dynamic, there's a camaraderie. In a previous episode, we talked about community and the importance of having a supportive community. If you want to go check out that episode, definitely go check it out. Okay, so moving forward, actually no, let's do a call to action. If you guys like what we're doing here, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. We talk about all things recovery. We talk about addiction. Today we're talking about ego. If you like what we're talking about and you want to know more, type show in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, it doesn't matter. We're going to have a message sent out to you. I go live every weekend, and it's my commitment to you guys that we're having fun in this show. I get messages from everybody. Well, not everybody, but every weekend, every week, I get a message from somebody. It's like, holy cow, I watched your show. Thank you so much. And it's people that don't do the hearts and likes and the stars or whatever. So people will watch and send me a message later on. Last week I started transcribing my videos. Holy crap, I talk a lot, by the way. I didn't think I talked that much. But I started transcribing my videos, and then I would make them into blog posts. It's been an adventure. I've posted one every week this week, or one every day this week, but there's way more videos than I've got blogs. But I'm slowly releasing it. I'm getting up to speed. Eventually I'm going to get caught up, but I'm having fun with the show, and I'm hoping you guys are too. Okay, so let's move forward with the topic. So we talked about making amends as something that I'm going to be continually doing all the time. It's not something I'm once doing. I have to keep doing it forever. Okay, so another thing I'm going to be doing consistently then is looking beyond myself. And when I look beyond myself, I'm going to be looking past my ego. In order to look past my ego, I'm going to have to be grateful. So it's almost like gratitude and ego, they can't be in the same room at the same time. Like I can't hold them at the same level. It becomes too challenging. And one is going to have to take place more than the other. So if I'm willing to look past my ego, if I'm willing to let go and bring down those walls, I can let gratefulness in. And, to this day, I still struggle. What the main thing in recovery is the message they tell you in the rooms when you go to meetings is, the struggle doesn't get any easier, but you do get stronger. And that's the important part. Because life is going to happen. You're going to live life on life's terms. No matter how you feel about something, something's going to happen. But what we can do is prepare ourselves. What we can do is make amends while we're here. You never know. Like the person may not be here tomorrow. Like there's some apologies I'm not able to make anymore that I could have when I needed to, but I didn't because I was new. But I don't let that, make decisions for me. I don't let that hold me down. But what it does though is it motivates me to want to do more. It motivates me to want to say, hey, you know what? Let me keep my side of the street clean while I'm here. I have a chance and an opportunity to make a difference, so why not do that now? Or I could be crippled with anxiety, frustration, and resentment. But again, that's my ego talking. Ego doesn't have a place in my world anymore. I've got too much going for me. Anyway, okay, let's keep moving. So everybody has their own struggles. Every person struggling, everybody who is on the path of recovery is on a journey of some sort. They're on a quest of some kind. As an addict, we carry with us this idea of what we believe our reality to be. And it's crazy because it's almost as if we're living in this dream. And until we wake up, it appears to be this horrible, wretched place where everybody's out to get us, that no one understands us. I know that because I believe that. I thought that there was no place for me. I thought nobody was willing to take the opportunity and listen. And, ego, it's crazy because ego itself can't be changed externally. Like I can't rub A535 on my ego and make it go away. I can't take a Tylenol and make ego go away. Ego has to be changed from within. And by adjusting to that flood of emotions, so when I stop consuming substances, drugs, and alcohol, when I give room for more emotion, and as I acclimatize to those emotions, I'm mapping those emotions down to like feelings and sensations, and I start appreciating that there's more to life than just the positive and the negative. And this is where gratitude comes in. Gratitude brings in the light. Gratitude fills the darkness with light. Earlier we talked about pride and ego alienating our friends and our family. And, it gets us into a groove. It gets us into a habit of just alienating everybody and filling our world with darkness. And when light is being introduced, when light is first coming into the darkness, everything seems new because it's never seen the light of day before. Nothing seems to fit because we've alienated ourselves from the world, from what we can appreciate as spirit, from our higher power, from what we connect to being the greater good. And that's how spirit appears to the person struggling, to the person that's an addict. When they've filled their world with darkness, when challenges appear to an addict, to me, I felt that my beliefs were being challenged. I thought my being was being called into question. As an addict, I felt that everybody was against me. I couldn't see past my own experiences, and I thought, hey, you know what? This is it. This is all my life is going to ever become. I reduced my life down to a handful of experiences, and I wasn't willing to look beyond them. And so when by going to meetings, by going to having such a supportive community, by going through rehab, by making my amends, by connecting with others, and by supporting others along the way, I began to connect myself with spirit. I began to connect myself with a higher power. I began to connect myself with a greater good. And when a person in recovery, an addict, and spirit become connected, the darkness becomes filled with light. And that's the amazing part about it. That's the wonderful part, because then the challenges, the same challenges we saw before, they become growth opportunities. Our body, our mind, and our spirit, they're all connected. They've always been. But it's when our alienation comes in, when our ego is driving us, our world becomes corrupt with vanity and corruption. But until we can appreciate that the body, mind, and spirit are connected, and that we have a chance of changing things by choosing to remove ego from our lives, from choosing to fill our life with gratitude, to have a sense of appreciation for everything, to roll with the punches, to live life on life's terms. Once we start changing our perception, once we start taking action in a positive light, once we begin to walk in the direction of progress, taking ownership, making our amends, all of this can change. It doesn't happen overnight, but everything that we saw beforehand, I shared earlier that it was a horrible experience where the person on the struggle sees the outside world as negative and frustrating and resentful, and all these people are out to get them. But it's not until we're connected with spirit that those same challenges present themselves as opportunities, that we have a chance at the end to help shape ourselves and shape the experience that we're having. But until we wake up, it's going to appear as horrible, terrifying, and as if it's a chain of events that never ends. So it's weird because our ego drives us to stay asleep. And once we wake up, then we're free to free ourselves from the bonds that we cannot even see, that we're able to choose to live a life without ego. And it sounds crazy that we have that ability, but we don't see that we're being chained down by ego. We don't see that we're being held down by resentment and negativity and our pride. But to the person that's on the struggle, they don't know any different. And that's the hard part about it, because we want to believe that everybody truly wants a positive light, but not everybody's willing to go through the exercise. Not everybody's willing to make the list of people that we had harmed. Not many people want to admit that, hey, you know what, I messed up. You know what, I wasn't a good boyfriend. I wasn't a good fictitious brother or whatever. These are the things that, I can appreciate now that I've made the decision to have a positive light, that I've chosen to support others and have fun, that I've chosen to move forward, help others by having this amazing show, an outstanding life, to share my message. So thank you guys for watching. It really means a lot to me that you guys hang out and you're cool. I was trying to do something fun in this show by having an arrow key on the camera so I couldn't see, and then I had it at the arrow part, so I was looking at the lens. I was working on it. I'm trying out something new every week. But thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. I look forward to your comments and your messages. You guys really amaze me every week. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you next week.